The 13th running to the Indianapolis 250 is just around the corner. One of the biggest and greatest races that we run here on the channel each and every year. That's definitely apparent with the lead up that we have to that race. We always have so many fun events planned on the lead up to this great race, and one of those races in years past has been the Freedom 50, which year in and year out proves to be a spectacle here on the channel in lead up to Indy 250. But here we are once again. Indianapolis is coming up in just a couple days, and we are here for the 2026 edition of the Freedom 50. But it's not the Freedom 50 anymore. No, sir. We have doubled the distance, almost double the field size, and who knows, maybe we'll double the excitement here in this year's edition of now the Freedom 100 here on AG the channel. Very excited to see how this race will end up shaking out, but before we get there, you all know the drill. We have to set the starting lineup for this year's running of the Freedom 100, and that is what we are here to do today. We're here for single car qualifying here for the 2026 Freedom 100. Let's take a look at who we are going to see in this field and who will be starting at the pole position for this great race. What's going on, everybody? Caleb here, and welcome to single car qualifying for the 2026 Freedom 100. Definitely changing things up quite a bit from years past, but very excited to be back here once again at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This time of year is always definitely one of my favorites. The excitement and the anticipation that surrounds this time of year is definitely very, very fun, and I cannot wait to see how the 13th running of the Indianapolis 250 will go. Always such a fun race year in and year out. So is this one, the sister race to the Indianapolis 250, now the Freedom 100. Of course, as aforementioned, we have almost doubled the field size and doubled the length of this race, and should definitely make for some very interesting racing come tomorrow afternoon. But here today, we are going to set the starting grid for the 2026 edition of the Freedom 100. Definitely have quite the field to behold here this time around. Going to be interesting to see where everybody will line up and who we do see fighting for the race victory tomorrow afternoon. But today, we'll definitely get kind of a tasting of what we might see. We're going to be ripping here around these single car runs around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And you all will get to see firsthand who will be in this field, who our fast drivers are, and who we could potentially see in contention tomorrow afternoon. But it'll definitely be interesting to see how all of these shakeups factor into the race tomorrow afternoon. Of course, like aforementioned, expanded field size, longer distance, and also this race is back as its own standalone event once again, instead of being tied in with the CSX Indy Lights series, so it'll definitely be interesting to see how all those factor into tomorrow's race, but should definitely be a fun one for sure, especially considering the field that we have for tomorrow's race. And we will introduce that field here in just a second. Of course, I'm sure you all know the drill by now here for single car qualifying. All these guys will be able to go out individually. They'll get one out lap and then one flying lap. That will be their qualifying effort for the 2026 Freedom 100. And of course, fastest flying lap will win the pole for the 2026 Freedom 100. But with all of that being said, of course, the qualifying order, just like as set in years past, will be by channel wins. And any ties in that will be broken by alphabeticals. So taking a look here at your qualifying order for the 2026 Freedom 100, a lot of big names here. Jesse Turner going to be the first one out in that number 10 machine. Hierjel Alonso as well. Then you got Rogal Dorn, Igor Barreto, Rayan Durrani, Andrew Williams, Carson Miller, Daniel Paulus Jr., Emily York-Watson, Angel Gutierrez, Bibi Ruiz, Corey Case, Pria McShane, Tyler Jericho, Bernardo de Oliveira, Lenard Kocsmar, Nicholas Cameron, David Dixon, Matthew Burnett, Zaedin Davidson, Alexis Selspin, Henry Jack Brown, Johnson Jameson, Justin Perez, Kacey Kojima, Kasumi Takashi, Larry Darwin Jr., and making their first ever start here on the channel. We're going to be going out 28th. It's Manny Rosario. But kind of just like we say at Super Speedways, the pole sitter could come from just about anywhere in this field. Weather conditions are going to be identical for everybody. Got a 73 clear sunny day here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with a little bit of winds to the southwest. So that'll definitely be interesting to see how that ends up factoring out into all these guys' laps. But should definitely be very interesting. That is for sure. And cannot wait to see how this all goes down and who will start from the pole position tomorrow for the 2026 edition of the Freedom 100. But with all that being said, I think I've yapped on for just about long enough here. I think it's about time we head trackside and get our first driver out for the 2026 Freedom 100 single car qualifying. And here we go. We are underway here for Freedom 100 qualifying. And of course, just like in years past, doing it here in order of channel wins. So first driver out here is just about as experienced as they come. It's the first driver on the channel that has known what winning feels like, and it is the number 10 of Jesse Turner, the first ever winner here on the channel, all the way back at that Daytona 500 back in 2015. Now looking to win the 2026 Freedom 100, and that would definitely be something if Turner could win this race. We'll have to see what he can do. We'll be setting the baseline here for the rest of these guys as qualifying does go along. Here he comes to the line. 217 across the line for that number 10, and going to stabilize at 219 there. Going into turn number 1. New turn number 2, probably one of the slowest parts of the racetrack. Going to get down to 209. And here he goes down this long back straightaway. We'll have to see what speed he gets up to here going into turn number 3. Just barely gets up to 221. As he heads through turns 3 and 4. So like I said, this will be the baseline here for the rest of these guys. Have to see how well this holds up. Just barely clips 208 there through turn 4, but here he comes to the line. Jesse Turner gonna clock in here with a 41.549. I'll put him on the board right there as first, but like I said, we'll have to see how that time holds up. But Jesse Turner will have to see if the experience has shown through there with this lap. Have to see how it does hold up here as we go along. Up next here, we have Hierjel Alonso, better known as Hierjel Alonso here on the channel, coming out second here behind the number 10 of Jesse Turner in that number 5 machine. Also one of the more experienced drivers here on the channel. It's going to be interesting to see how he does here in his qualifying lap. But I definitely got to ask you, how are you expecting qualifying to turn out? How are you expecting that 10's time to hold up, considering, especially after last season here in qualifying, we kind of saw a trend as the laps kind of seemed to tick downwards as the day went along. So how are you expecting that 10's lap to hold up, and what are you expecting here out of this 5 of Hierjel Alonso?
It's definitely going to be very interesting if, Jesse Turner can maintain that spot. And you gotta see if the trends really continue as the day goes on, if the track somehow gets hotter, and then, that makes the times go slower. And we gotta see, and of course the difference for a lot of these guys, compared to last weekend for the NT250 qualifying, we don't have the speed boost. So it's the regular speeds that we will see for the NT250 and the Freedom 100. And we gotta see what Hierjel can do. Maybe a little bit faster than Turner, but let's see here.
It didn't look like quite the speed that he wanted going into turn number 1. Across the line, 41.623 for Hierjel Alonso. So about a 10th off there of the number 10 of Jesse Turner. Probably not the speed that 5 car wanted here in qualifying, but we know anybody could win from anywhere here at this racetrack, especially in these open wheelers. Hey, Nathan, I'm sure you know quite a lot about that with Brennan winning the Indy 250 last season from the back of the field, but we'll have to see what that 5 can do come race day and how that qualifying lap will hold up here, as we still got 34 more cars left, or not 34. Here we go, our third driver out here in Freedom 100 qualifying. Still have 26 more drivers to go, starting here with the number 17 of Rogal Dorn, of course, owner of Dutch Atlantis Racing, and Frank Chilton there over in the Haas IndyCar Series. Well, he will qualify here for the Freedom 100, but we'll have to see where that 17 Hers machine will start tomorrow afternoon in the Freedom 100. We know how good Rogal is as a driver. We've seen what he's been able to do over in the Wawa Cup Series there in the number 51 for Intersis Motor Racing. Have to see what he can do here in the Freedom 100, here in an open wheeler. Here he comes across the line. It's not looking the best for Rogal Dorn. 216 across the line. Going to get up to 218 heading into turn number 1. See what he minimizes here at off of turn number 2. It's going to be 208. I have to see if he can maybe pick it up here in the second half of the lap, but definitely not the first half that he was looking for. Here as he heads into turn number 3, going to get up to 220. So, might end up being slower than Alonso's time. Have to see what the 17 does here through turn 4. Going to hold 208 there for a little while. See what this clocks in here at the line. Rogal Dorn going to slot in here with a 41.739. That's about a tenth off the number 5 of Hierjel Alonso. Going to slot in right now in the 3rd position, so probably not the lap time there that Rogal Dorn wanted, but it definitely seems like the trend from last season is continuing, at least onto these first 3 drivers. Have to see if someone can break the trend as this qualifying session does go along, but Rogal Dorn slotting into 3rd here right now for Freedom 100 qualifying.
And next up in Freedom 100 qualifying, we have the number 71 Carson Machine of Igor Barreto, and we gotta see what Igor can do here. And so far, noticing that the trend that has been the case for the last couple of times during Freedom 50/Freedom 100 qualifying is that these drivers go slower and slower, and so far that's been the case with a 41.5, 41.6, and a 41.7. We gotta see what Igor Barreto can in fact do here for his qualifying lap. And at the line it will be a 2:15 at the line. 2:17 entering turn number 1. Maybe okay. Gotta see how much speed he can keep up in turn 2 down to 208 for a long time. And this is the big one. Turn 3, how much speed can you build up for turn number 3? 219. So once again, not that great of a time for these drivers. They keep on going slower and slower. 209, 208, 207. For a brief second in turn 4 for Igor Barreto, and the number 71, it will be a 41.853, and we keep on going slower by a tenth each time here in Freedom 100 qualifying.
Next up here on the track, we have our current Wawa National Series points leader, at least at the time of us recording this, Rayan Durrani in the number 86. Really excited to see what Durrani can do here in this race. It'll be very, very interesting to see what he might have in the tank here in these open wheelers. He's definitely proven to be a fast driver so far in this season over the Wawa National Series. Have to see what kind of lap time he can put down. From what the trends say, they seem to be trending downward. We're seeing about a 10th fall off per lap, so we'll have to see if Durrani can be a bit of a trend breaker here as he comes down the front straightaway and to the line. Have to see what that 86 might have in the tank. Cross the line, 216 for the 86 of Durrani, and 217 going into turn number 1. So probably not the best speed that 86 wanted going into turn number 1. Going to minimize it to 208. You're off at turn number 2. Have to see if he can maybe pick this up here in the second half of the lap. See what speed he can get up to in turn number 3. Can he get up to 220? No, he can't. Going to stabilize there at 219. And through turn 4 here, going to minimize out at 208. This is looking like probably a middle-of-the-road time here for Rayan Durrani compared to what we've seen so far. Here as he heads across the line, going to be a 41.772 for that 86. That's going to plop him into the 4th position right now. Right behind that 17 of Rogal Dorn and ahead of the 71 of Igor Barreto. So the trend has been broken, but still probably not the time that 86 of Rayan Durrani wanted. But like we were talking about earlier, we've seen at this racetrack in these open wheel cars that the winner can come from anywhere in the field, especially with the longer distance. We'll have to see what Durrani can do in the Freedom 100 tomorrow. Definitely might have his work cut out for him, but we'll have to see how everybody else does here in Freedom 100 qualifying. Still got a long way to go, though. Next up here, we got the number 20, Andrew Williams. Of course, owner of GRT Team Williams in the Haas IndyCar Series, and of course, owner of Team Williams in the Wawa Cup Series, there with the reigning champion Duncan Ward. I know you're probably pretty familiar with that team, Alex, and welcome up here to the booth here for Freedom 100 qualifying. Definitely happy to have you, and what are you expecting here out of this lap from the number 20 of Andrew Williams, considering the success that he's had as an owner?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a connection with you because you drive for him. You are going to drive for him in the Indy 250, starting top 10 on Saturday, so I know you're excited about that.
Oh, yeah.
And I know Andrew's excited about that as well, having 3 cars in that race, and I'm sure he's really excited about this race. And Andrew Williams, of course, a very storied owner over in the Wawa Cup Series side and been around a long time. Yes, he is a veteran driver. He's been around for 5-6 years. I say you're a pretty long-term veteran at this point if you've been around that long. Obviously, these guys going a little slower than what we saw over the weekend with the Indy cars, but still quite fast. And I got to be honest with you, Caleb, I don't know any idea if this is a fast lap or not. So you might know. You've seen a couple of guys go out so far.
So far, not looking the best, not looking the worst, though, for the 20 of Andrew Williams, who's going to dip down there in 207. They're for turn number 4, though, so we'll have to see how he ranks up here at the line. 41.882. That is actually the slowest time we've seen so far today, behind the 71 of Igor Barreto. There with that 41.853, so slowest time so far there for Andrew Williams. A break there for that number 20 machine. Next up, we have our first of the unfortunate 3 that ended up DNQing from the Indianapolis 250. Here we have the number 04, WD-40 machine of Carson Miller. Have to see what he can do here in Freedom 100 qualifying and in the race tomorrow. Definitely hate it for all the guys that did DNQ for the Indy 250, but if there is any silver lining, last year's race here was won by a driver that DNQ'd from the Indy 250, and Brad Stover ended up going to victory lane, the number 81, so have to see if they can gain at least redemption of some kind here by winning this race, and have to see what he can do here in qualifying. It's Nathan, I also remember you had one of your cars DNQ here a couple of years ago, and I definitely know that's quite the gut-wrenching feeling for both the driver and the owner.
Absolutely. You spend all season long preparing in the point standings to get an opportunity to have a Indy 500 car or just in general. And one of those cars ends up missing the show, and all that work goes for nothing. But for Kocsmar, he hopes that, this is worth it for being in the Freedom 100, and hopefully he makes it into a feature later on tonight for the little 250. Maybe that would make up to it, but top it for Kocsmar. A decent lap for him, I think, but right now Justin Perez doing a great job on top of the board, and it would be a 41.748. So basically, right in the middle, 4th out of 7 for Carson Miller.
Yeah, that's right, smack dab in the middle there for the 04 Carson Miller. So solid lap there from that 04 machine. Have to see how he does in the main race, but I definitely tell you what, as laps tick by, it's definitely looking like that lap set by the 10 of Jesse Turner might have been a flyer. Still got a handful of cars left to go, and we'll have to see still how it holds up, but Carson Miller, not a bad lap at all there from that number 04. Have to see if he can gain some solace by winning the Freedom 100 tomorrow. Here we go. Up next, we got the Mango Man himself, DPJ. Daniel Paulus Jr. out here for Freedom 100 qualifying. Of course, we've seen how fast DPJ is as a driver. We've seen a good deal of success from him over in the Wawa Cup Series in recent seasons. Alex, I know you've seen a great deal of that success, but he's kind of been looking for his mojo so far this season. He's shown some speed, but just hasn't quite been able to break through that barrier quite yet. But what better way to boost your confidence than a good run here in the Freedom 100? And it's going to be very intriguing to see how he does here in that Celsius number 26.
Yeah, I mean, Could definitely use a bit of a boost in confidence, I feel like, after what has happened this season in the Wall Cup Series. He's been good, but he has not been to the level he was last year. Hasn't gotten to win yet. First time, I think, in an open wheel machine for DPJ. So excited to see what he can do. And I've been talking up this driver list for a long, long time. Well, ever since he released it, basically. So I guess it hasn't been that long. But we got so many great drivers, and we already seen a lot of these experienced veterans. I think we're going in the order of the win list here. So it's been a lot of fun seeing these guys. We'll see what DPJ can do here in the 26 machine.
Kind of like Carson Miller. It's looking like a pretty solid lap here out of this 26. Have to see what he times out here at the line, but not looking too bad. Here is the number 26. Cross the line, going to be a 41.761. Going to place him there in the 5th position behind the 04 Carson Miller and ahead of the 86 of Rayan Durrani. So, compared to what we've seen, not bad at all there from the number 26 of Daniel Paulus Jr. Have to see how that time ends up holding up to the rest of these guys still yet to go here in Freedom 100 qualifying. Next up here we have the winner of the last special event race that I did. Winner of the 2025 Christmas Eve Showdown, Emily York Watson. In the number 47. Really excited to see how she does. And we know she's got a lot of speed, especially here in these special events. And Nathan, I'm sure you can attest to that as well, as Emily York Watson has also had a lot of success over in her sprint series. Going to be intriguing to see how that success will translate over here to the open wheelers here for the Freedom 100, but definitely going to be intriguing to see how she does here.
Absolutely. It's going to be very interesting of what Emily Watson can do. Of course, one of these drivers that is running here in the Freedom 100, and of course won a bunch last year, won the run of a Pro Series and Christmas Eve Showdown, and then has been tearing up this year in the her Sprint Series. And we gotta see what Emily York Watson can do in the 47 so far. Ironically, the average has been a 41.7 so far, so we gotta see if this 47 machine will do an average or if it will be a little bit faster. But 206 in turn 4, that's not gonna be that great. So we gotta see what Watson can do here. It would be a 41.991 or 991. That's the slowest time here today.
Unfortunately, a little below average there from the 47, Emily York Watson. The slot in last on the grid right now. So really tough break for that 47. Just didn't really seem to have the speed there on her qualifying lap, but I have to see if she can bring some life to that 47 machine in race day. Still got a long way to go here in qualifying and still got the race ahead. Just have to wait and see how it'll all turn out. Next up here, we have our next of the DNQs from the Indianapolis 250, and quite the big name at that. 2023 Indy 250 champion Angel Gutierrez down here in qualifying for the Freedom 100. A really tough break there for the 07 and Gutierrez DNQing from the Indy 250, and have to see if they can nab some redemption here by winning the Freedom 100. We know the Gutierrez knows how to get it done here around this racetrack, especially here in the open wheelers. So it's going to be exciting to see what that 07 machine can do come qualifying. And of course, Alex, you were in the booth for that incredible race back in 23. You saw Gutierrez go into victory lane. You know how good Gutierrez is here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, so definitely going to be intriguing to see what she can do tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, he had a really interesting run in the 2023 edition of this race, and that was his first ever start in the Indy 250, and he got it, and then the complete opposite happened back on Sunday. Failed to qualify. Kind of a big deal for him, but he's had a really good run here in the channel over the past couple of years after that Indy 250 win, and I have a good feeling about him in this Freedom 100, knowing that he has won an Indianapolis 250 before, so we'll see how this starting position ends up working out. Like you said earlier, Caleb, doesn't really matter where you start too much in this one, especially this race. Anyone can win it from any starting position.
It's going to be a 41.793 for Angel Gutierrez. That is, looking here at the timing charts, good enough for 7th there for that 07 machine, behind Rayan Durrani, but right ahead of the 71 of Igor Barreto. So an overall solid time there from Angel Gutierrez. Like Nathan was talking about earlier, definitely seems like 41.7 seems to kind of be the baseline that all these guys are going for right now. And so far, definitely got to say, that lap time set by the 10 of Jesse Turner is just looking better and better here as the laps end up going along. Have to see if he can hold on to that top spot. Still, though, got a long way to go here in Freedom 100 qualifying. Up next, we have another and the last of our DNQs from the 2026 Indianapolis 250. Number 54 of Bibi Ruiz. We're striving for MAL Racing and Michael Lewis over in the Haas IndyCar Series. And he's found a lot of success so far this year on the channel. In the Wawa Cup Series, he's shown a lot of good speed. Fortunately, just Indy 250 qualifying did not go his way, and he will have to fight for the race victory tomorrow in the Freedom 100. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do. And Alex, I was talking about his Wawa Cup Series success. He's definitely looked really solid over there in the number 86 there for Durrani Racing. So he's definitely showing a lot of pace. Have to see what he can do here in qualifying and in the race for the Freedom 100.
Absolutely. We gotta see what Bibi Ruiz can do. And of course, never want to miss the big race of the Indy 250. But this is also a big deal. And 209 doing turn number 2. No one's been able to touch Jesse Turner ever since he put that thing on the pole at the very start of the day. But this might be interesting. 220 into turn number 3. And what will BB do here in turn 3? This is the crucial turn. Down to 208. We might have a one for the up towards the top here from BB Ruiz. It's gonna be close. It's gonna be a 41 point.
687.
687.
Third on the board for Bibi Ruiz. Not a bad lap at all there for that number 54. Great stuff there from Bibi Ruiz. Going to qualify right behind Hierjel Alonso in the 3rd position. Really good lap time out of that number 54. Next up here in Freedom 100 qualifying, we have the number 19 of Corey Case. Driver who's been in this event a couple times here in the past few years and has also shown some success in this event in the last couple years. I do believe almost got the race victory back in 2024. Just got beat out by Will Parrish in that race. Case looking to try and nab the victory here in the 2026 running of what is now the Freedom 100. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do. He's shown some success on the channel this year in the Hers Sprint Series, last winning at Watkins Glen. It's going to be intriguing to see what that 19 can do here on his quali lap.
Yeah, Corey Case is a driver who's had some success recently in the Sprint Series, winning at Watkins Glen, and he's a guy who's been around a while, actually. He's really not gotten that full-time opportunity quite yet, so, hopefully soon he'll get that and really start to make a name for himself here. But he's got an opportunity of doing that. He's had some success in this race in the past, and feel pretty good about him here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Definitely a driver to watch out for come race time tomorrow, and looking like a solid lap here so far out of Corey Case. Going to reach 220 there going into turn number 3, so probably not going to reach the 41.5 set by Jesse Turner, but still looking like a really solid lap here from the 19 of Corey Case. We'll see what he sets here across the line. Going to be a 41.730. That is going to put him 4th on the board, right behind Bibi Ruiz and right ahead of the 17 of Rogal Dorn. So good stuff there. The 19 of Corey Case. Have to see where that time will put him once the rest of these guys come out, but definitely looking to bring some of that speed he's had in the past years back here to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Freedom 100. Next up here, we have the number 2 machine, Pria McShane, into that Valvoline machine here, heading out for qualifying for the Freedom 100. Pria McShane's made a handful of starts in Indy 250 week so far in the previous years, and has made a couple starts this year across the Hers Sprint Series, and also looking to participate in this season's Little 250 as well. So very excited to see how Pria does here in qualifying and in the race here for the 2026 Freedom 100. Definitely going to be very interesting to see what that 2 machine can do. I remember qualified for the Indy 250 a couple years back, so has a lot of experience here in these open wheelers around Indianapolis, and it's going to be interesting to see what she can do.
And it doesn't really matter if it's a Indy light car or a Indy car. experience at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in a open wheel is experience in a open wheel. So I see what Pria McShane can do down to 207 though in turn 3. I see what Pria can do. The most we've seen is 220 down into turn 3, and it's going to be 218. So this might be about average in the 41.7s up to this point for Pria McShane here. But it might be towards spawn 206 in turn 4, and it would be a 41.996. That is going to be the slowest time of the day for Pria McShane.
Fortunate there for McShane, 41.996. That is the slowest time we've seen so far. Almost crossing over there into the 42s, just a couple tenths off, but so not all doom and gloom for McShane. Like we were talking about earlier on, we saw last year in the Indy 250, anybody can win from anywhere on the racetrack, and that could definitely get a lot more likely with the extended distance of this race, so not out of it just yet for the two of Pria McShane. Have to see what they can do in the race, but tough break here in qualifying for that number 2 machine. Next up here, we got the number 18, Tyler Jericho, in the number Reese's machine. We were just talking about a second ago. This keeps making us quite hungry in that number 18 machine, but gonna be interesting to see what Tyler Jericho can do here in this lap. He's had a lot of success here on the channel as of late, and of course over on your channel, Nathan, and over on Joe's channel as well. Tyler Jericho is a jack of all trades, it seems like, but I do believe this is his first time in an open wheel car here on the channel, so it's going to be very interesting to see what Jericho can do here in this lap, but close it in on halfway home here through Indy 250 qualifying, Freedom 100 qualifying here from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Across the line, it's going to be 2:16 for the 18 of Tyler Jericho. Going to reach 2:18 for that number 18 in the turn at number 1. So, already looking like kind of an average lap for that number 18. Have to see if he can pick it up here in the second half, but already looking somewhat solid for that number 18. Have to see where he does slot in. And, like I was saying, after Jericho goes, we'll be halfway through qualifying, and it's definitely been really interesting so far. To see how the rest of it shakes up, but yeah, they're 220 going into turn number 3, so trying to pick it up here in the second half of this lap. Going to go down to 208 there through turn 4. Definitely looking like a solid lap. Definitely out of the 18 of Tyler Jericho across the line. 41.718. That is 4th on the board for Tyler Jericho, ahead of Corey Case. Really solid lap time out of the 18 of Tyler Jericho. Really picked it up, it seems like, on the second part of that lap. A lot of speed in that number 18 Reese's machine. Have to see what he can do in the main race. Definitely looking really sporty as of right now. Alright, time to kick off the second half of qualifying here for the 2026 Freedom 100. Definitely been quite the fun session so far, and do appreciate all y'all for tuning in. Here to qualifying for the Freedom 100. Still got 14 more cars left to go. We're kicking off the ladder 14 here with the number 8, Bernardo de Oliveira, in the Cheddar's machine. Back-to-back cars. It just makes you hungry. But I have to see what Bernardo can do in that number 8 machine. We know Bernardo's been a fast driver, of course, owner of BO Racing, both in the IndyCar Series and over in the National Series. And those cars have showed flashes of potential over in the National Series, but especially over in IndyCar. Those BO Racing cars have shown to have a lot of pace. So I'll have to see what Bernardo can do here in the driver's seat in that Cheddar's number 8 machine.
Definitely I see what Bernardo de Oliveira can do here. And as of late, it's been on the up and up here in qualifying, and it's continuing here with 219 once again for Bernardo de Oliveira. That's multiple cars in a row now. And we gotta see if what this 8 can do off of the corner down to 107. So I don't think it's gonna be a top 5-1. But it's gonna be about the average, I think, for Bernardo de Oliveira.
1-8-2-8 for Oliveira. That's gonna put them 11th in the standings, ahead of Barreto and behind the 07 of Angel Gutierrez. So not quite the best lap time there from the 8 of Bernardo de Oliveira, but I have to see what kind of pace that 8 machine will have come race day here in the Freedom 100. Up next here, we have the number 46 of Lenard Kocsmar in the Pilot Flying J machine. Same sponsor he runs over in the Wawa Cup Series and in the upcoming Little 250. And Kocsmar has definitely had some solid pace so far this year in the Wawa Cup Series. Almost got that race victory a week ago at the Dover Motor Speedway, but unfortunately just didn't really work out in his favor. I'd have to see if qualifying and the race here in the Freedom 100 will go in Kocsmar's favor. Going to be very, very interesting to see what he can do in that Pilot Flying J number 46. Michael Annett vibes there for Lenard Kocsmar. Here he comes down the front straightaway to the line. Have to see what he hits here. It's going to be 216 across the line for Lenard Kocsmar, and just peaking there at 218 going into turn number 1. So not looking like the best first half of the lap for Kocsmar, but we did see guys like Tyler Jericho really kind of pick it up in the second half, so we'll have to see if Kocsmar can do the same here. Heading into turn number 3, can he reach 220? Not quite, but he kind of did stabilize there at 219 for quite a while. So we'll have to see if he does pick it up here in the second half. Just barely going to tap 207 there off of turn number 4. So this could be a solidish lap time for Lenard Kocsmar across the line. 41.776 for the number 46. That is going to be 10th quickest on the board right now, behind Rayan Durrani and ahead of Angel Gutierrez. So relatively solid lap times, all things considered there for the 46 of Lenard Kocsmar. We'll have to see if that 46 is waiting for the race to really unleash the beast in that number 46. And next up here in Freedom 100 qualifying, we got a driver who has found a lot of success so far this year on the channel over in the Wawa National Series. Currently duking it out there with Rayan Durrani for the points lead in the Wawa National Series. It's Nicholas Cameron in the number 14 machine. Of course, as the time of recording this, last one at the Dover Motor Speedway. And absolutely did that in dominating fashion. Played the strategy just right and never looked back after taking the race lead and just ran away from the car he was fighting for that championship lead. So going to be interesting to see what Cameron can do here in the Freedom 100. I believe this will be his first start in an open-wheel car. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do. Here in the turn number 1, going to stabilize there at 218. So looking solid here so far on his qualifying lap here through turn number 2. Going to minimize, just barely nicked 208 there, but so far looking pretty solid here for the number 14.
Complete solid. Gotta see what he does here. And oh boy, 220 for a minute there. Nicholas Cameron, he's been on a roll at the rate in the National Series, down to 208. Jesse Turner might have to watch out here for the 14 at the line.
Could potentially be a top 5 time here, 41.679. And that will indeed be a top 5 time. In fact, that is third on the board for the number 14 and Nicholas Cameron, slotting in there right ahead of the 54 of Bibi Ruiz and right behind the number 5 of Hierjel Alonso. So really good time there out of the 14 of Nicholas Cameron. Really kind of bringing his expertise he's shown so far in the Wawa National Series this season over here without a hitch. Here we go. Next driver out, we have the number 6 Wawa machine of David Dixon. Currently running full-time on the Wawa National Series and has definitely shown flashes of pace so far this season. Also quite prominent over in Joe's stuff and pretty sure your stuff as well, Nathan, over there on your channel. So going to be really interesting to see what Dixon can do here in the 2026 Freedom 100. Set a good qualifying time first, so we'll have to see how this session goes for him. We'll just have to wait and see, but so far, Jesse Turner, the first one out, has not only set the benchmark, he set the time to beat with a 41.549. Have to see what Dixon can do here, although 215 across the line, probably not going to help his case that much. 217 into turn number 1. Have to see if he can pick up some pace here in the second half of this lap, but definitely not the best first half there. Only going to minimize it 208 there off of turn number 2, so we'll have to see how much speed he can carry down the backstretch into turn number 3. Hold 219 for a second there, so not too bad there for David Dixon. Well, this might be towards the lower end of the board for that 6 machine. Minimizing at 207 there through turn 4. Here he comes down the front straightaway. David Dixon gonna cross the line here. It's going to be a 41.853 for David Dixon. That is tied with the 71 of Igor Barreto. We saw a tie in Indy 250 qualifying, and now we're seeing a tie here in Freedom 100 qualifying. As both Barreto and David Dixon with a 41.853. How about that? Up next here, just got 10 drivers left to go here in Freedom 100 qualifying, and we have the number 22 JBL machine of Matthew Burnett. Another pretty prominent figure, both over here as well as in yours and Joe's channels. It'll be intriguing to see how Matthew Burnett does here in Freedom 100 qualifying. He's had a solid amount of success so far this season over in the Wawa National Series. Of course, won the Freshman Florida 300 at the Daytona International Speedway earlier on the season. Has had some good runs since as well. So going to be very, very interesting indeed to see what Matthew Burnett can do here in the Freedom 100.
I think Burnett, he's been getting better in some of these range series this year, in mine and the Wawa National Series for you. And this could be an opportunity for Burnett in an equal range special event to maybe shine here today and tomorrow. Decent lap so far, 209 on that sit. Let's see what he will do here, 218, 219.
He's going to hit 220.
It might be a good lap here for Burnett.
Definitely looking like a really solid lap here from the 22. Got to 220 there into turn number 3. Through turn 4, minimizing at 208. This is going to be a very solid lap time here out of this number 22 machine. Here he comes across the line, 41.733. A little bit slower maybe than what we were expecting. However, that will still put him in the 7th position, right behind that number 19 of Corey Case, and he had to do 17 of Rogal Dorn. So I was maybe expecting a 41.6 there out of the 22 of Matthew Burnett, but still, really solid lap time out of that JBL number 22. And next up here in Freedom 100 qualifying, we got your guy, Nathan Zaedin Davidson, in the number 15 body armor machine. It'll be interesting to see what Davidson can do here. He's shown a lot of flashes of brilliance for your team so far this season, the Wawa Cup Series, and we know Zaedin is a great driver across the channel. He's shown a lot of success in different series, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do here in the 2026 Freedom 100.
Absolutely. Looking forward to my guy, Zaedin Davidson. He's had a lot of promise so far this season. He might not have had the best of luck at times when he has good ones going in the Wawa Cup Series, but I mean, I honestly think he could be the guy of the future for NS Racing. He could be the guy for the future for the pole. 219.
This could be the guy to challenge Jesse Turner. 219 into turn number 1, minimizing at 209 through turn 2. Jesse, watch out. This is looking like a potential pole time out of Zaedin Davidson. 221 for a second there entering turn number 3. We might dethrone that 10 machine at the top of the board through turn 4. Gonna minimize at 209. Is this gonna be good enough for pole for Zaedin Davidson? It's definitely looking like it across the line. 41.491 for Zaedin Davidson. A blistering time, and he goes straight to the top of the charts.
I knew that was gonna be great once we went 219 into turn 1 and a 41.4 for Zaedin Davidson. What a lap.
Well, a new time at the top of the charts. Zaedin Davidson with a 41.941. However, still have a couple more cars to go here in qualifying, and we got a little bit of a brigade coming up as got a couple of GRT drivers here as Alexis Selspin takes to the track in that number 67 machine. Of course, developmental driver to Matt Tuck, and we know how much success Matt has had here on the channel as both an owner and a driver. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Alexis can do here in qualifying and in the race here for the Freedom 100. But honestly, I'm expecting good things with GRT plastered all over the car. I have to see what Alexis can do here in qualifying 2:17 going into turn number 1. Not really looking pole-like here, but definitely looking solid so far for Alexis Selspin, minimizing it to 208 there through turn number 2. To see what speed she can reach here as she heads down the back straightaway. Oh, she might reach 220, not quite. Stayed stagnant there at 219 for quite a while. So, not looking the best, not looking the worst, though, for the 67 of Alexis Selspin. Comes down the front straightaway here and coming to the line. Going to clock in here at a 41.792 for Alexis Selspin. Kind of the lower end of the 41.7s. That's going to put her in the 14th position. Just a thousandth of a second right ahead of the 07 of Angel Gutierrez. So not the best, but not the worst lap there for the 67 Alexis Selspin, but we know GRT cars really come alive once we hit the track for the races, so have to see what they might have in the tank come race time. Those GRT machines. Alright, well, we have GRT cars back-to-back here as next out on the racetrack. We got the number 34 machine of Henry Jack Brown. Another GRT-affiliated driver with GRT pretty much plastered all over that 34 machine. Excited to see what Henry Jack Brown can do in qualifying and in the race. Although, Wawa National Series has shown anything, Henry's not the best at qualifying, but he really picks it up come race time. But have to see what he can do here in qualifying for this race. Here in the 2026 Freedom 100, time to beat still the 41.491 set by Zaedin Davidson. Only a couple more drivers left to go here in qualifying. Cross the line, going to be 2:16 for Henry Jack Brown. Going to reach 2:18 here going into turn number 1. Kind of like Alexis Selspin, looking solid here to start off the lap. Minimize out there at 2:08 here off of turn number 2. We'll have to see what he can do here down the backstretch.
218, 219.
Oh. I saw like a frame or two of 220.
Yeah, I think it's literally just one frame, so might be a decent lap. Maybe not a top of the bullet lap, but it could be solid for Henry Jack Brown here.
41.761 for that number 34 machine. That will put him... Oh, we have another tie. And he's tied with another GRT-affiliated driver, tied with Daniel Paulus Jr. in that number 26. Of course, the tiebreakers will be done by drivers first out, so Paulus will get that tiebreaker. So that will put the 34 of Henry Jack Brown there in the 12th position. 2 ties so far here in qualifying. I have to see if they get any more, but definitely quite the conundrum. Alright, only 6 cars left here for Freedom 100 qualifying, and next up we have the number 7 of Johnson Jameson in that champion number 7 machine. Jameson has had a breakout season so far this year in the Wawa Cup Series, still yet to go to victory lane, but has definitely shown a lot of pace, driving the number 42 for Mahindra Motorsports, and definitely quite the turnaround compared to the season before where he was driving Uncharted Ride there for Hamel Racing Enterprises. But it's going to be interesting to see what Jameson can do here in the Freedom 100. I believe this is his first time here in an open wheel car, so it's going to be very interesting to see what he can do here.
Definitely going to be interesting. It's been pretty solid so far in the Wawa Cup Series, 216, 217, 218. So don't think it's going to be a pole contender unless he really whips up a really good second half of the lap here. 2:09 for a while off turn 2. So that's solid right there. 217, 218, 219,
220.
220, a little bit longer than what we just saw. So this could be a top 10 one from Johnson Jameson.
I definitely think this is projecting towards the 41.6s, potentially a top 5 time brewing here from the number 7 of Johnson Jameson. Here he comes across the line, 41.686. That will just barely be a top 5 time. That is 1/1000th of a second ahead of the 54 of Bibi Ruiz, and it will be 5th on the charts as of now for the number 7 of Johnson Jameson. Really great lap out of that number 7 machine. Have to see if it holds up, and he will start in the top 5, but still got 5 more drivers left to go here in qualifying. Still have to see if Zaedin Davidson can be dethroned up at the top of the charts. Only 5 cars left to go here in qualifying for the 2026 Freedom 100. And next up, we have Perez back in a Red Bull. Except it's Justin Perez driving the number 79 Red Bull machine. Going to be interesting to see what Justin Perez can do here in qualifying. He's shown quite a bit of success this season over in the Sprint Series. Of course, he was a competitor in the Dash for Cash earlier on in the season. Definitely know he's got some pace, so it's going to be interesting to see what he can do here in qualifying and eventually the race tomorrow.
Definitely going to be interesting for what Justin Perez can do. Been doing a handful of Sprint Series races this year, and you gotta see what he can do already. 216, 220, 217, 218, but it just seems like besides Davidson and Turner, those are the only 2 that can really go 219 entering turn 1 and then 221 entering turn 3.
That seems to be the case. So that was a solid exit off the turn 2 there for Perez. We'll see if he can hit 220 into 3. Yes, he can. I don't know. This could be another 41.6. We'll have to see what he clocks in here at the line. Just needs to stay clean here through turn number 4. Going to minimize at 208. Definitely looking like a 6, maybe a high 7. We'll have to see here at the line. Going to be a 41.726 for the 79 of Justin Perez. That is good enough for 8th on the timing charts right now, just ahead of the 19 of Corey Case. So definitely a solid lap time, all things considered, there for the number 79 of Justin Perez. Only 4 cars left here in qualifying, and up next we have the number 27 of Kacey Kojima. Ran the full season in the CS6 Indy Light Series when this was a thing last season. Actually had a good deal of success over there in that series. I have to see what you can do here in qualifying for the 2026 Freedom 100 in that number 27 Alliance machine. But still, we'll have to see if any of these last 4 can dethrone that 15 of Zaedin Davidson. Absolute flyer lap there from that body armor machine. You have to see what Kojima can do in that number 27. We know they've got some experience here in the open wheelers. We'll have to wait and see here. 216 across the line for the number 27. Gonna reach 218 here into turn number 1. So kind of looking similar to the last couple laps that we have seen. We'll see through turn number 2. Gonna minimize at 208 for a solid second there. So looking like a pretty solid lap time here out of the 27 of Kacey Kojima. Into turn at number 3, going to reach 220 for a second there. Definitely looking like a solid lap time here, all things considered.
Yeah, looks like it probably will be kind of the average of what we've seen here today with the 41.7. Definitely gonna be interesting of what this team can, or this driver can do here for the Freedom 100.
It'll be a 41.754 here when qualifying. That is good enough for 13th. So just about midway through the field. Is that number 27 of Kacey Kojima. Have to see if they can turn it up in the race, but overall a solid qualifying effort there for that number 27 machine. Only 3 more drivers left to go here in qualifying for the Freedom 100. Next up we have the number 11 New Balance machine of Kasumi Takashi. Developmental driver there to Matthew Hubert. Has gotten a lot of experience and has had a lot of success here in the channel in the past couple of years, so it'll be very, very interesting to see what Kasumi Takashi might have in the tank. That number 11 machine in qualifying and in the race tomorrow afternoon. To see what that 11 car can do.
Definitely. It's going to be interesting of what Takashi can do. Great development driver to Matthew Hubert. And tends to be a good late model driver, at least based off of last year in the little 250. I'll see how she does tonight. Trying to get revenge, but kind of like a lot of these drivers are late in the second half, Caleb. But a lot of these drivers are just running fairly similar times, all around 217, 218 in turn 1. And then for Takashi here in turn 3, it's going to be about the same, 219, 220 for a split second. So this might be a higher end of, say, the top 12 to 16, but it can be about average for Kasumi Takashi here, I think.
I have to see what this clock's in here at the line. Going to be a 41.768 for the 11 of Kasumi Takashi. That will be 16th on the board for that number 11, right there ahead of the 86 of Rayan Durrani, right behind the tie there between Daniel Paulus Jr. and Henry Jack Brown. So, solid lap overall there from the 11 of Kasumi Takashi, but they might have a little bit of work to do come race day. 2 drivers left here in Freedom 100 qualifying. 2 more drivers left to attempt to dethrone the number 15 of Zaedin Davidson. Still at the top of the standings with a 41.491. Have to see if any of these guys could potentially dethrone him. But up next here out on the racetrack, we have the number 76 of Larry Darwin Jr., developmental driver to Larry Darwin, who has been making, I believe, his first series of starts this season over in the Wawa National Series. So going to be interesting to see what Darwin Jr. can do here on the banks of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Their first time here in an open-wheel car. Larry Darwin has already got some experience so far this season, but Larry Darwin Jr., I believe, their first start, so we'll have to see what he can do. Already looking pretty solid, though. 217 across the line, 219 going into turn number 1. Unless he has probably the best second half we've ever seen. Probably won't be close enough for pole, however. This is definitely looking like a solid lap going so far from this number 76.
Definitely a fairly solid time.
Oh, boy.
I think this might be
look at
10
that.
here, maybe even top 5.
This might be top 3.
Wow. This is going to be crazy from Larry Darwin Jr. And 221, only 2 others have hit that today, and they are first and second.
Across the line, definitely looking like a top 3 time, and it will be a top 3 time. 41.559 for Larry Darwin Jr. That's 3rd on the board. Just about 100th off there from the number 10 of Jesse Turner, but a blistering time out of the number 76 of Larry Darwin Jr. Great stuff there out of that number 76 team, developmental driver to Larry Darwin. Definitely going to be a big confidence booster there for him, but just got one more driver left to go. One more chance. They throw that 15 of Zaedin Davidson. It's going to be a driver making their first ever start on the channel. Really excited to see how they do here as our last car out in Freedom 100 qualifying. And here we are. One more driver left to go here in Freedom 100 qualifying. Thank you all so much for tuning in all afternoon long, and it's going to be very interesting to see how qualifying concludes here. One driver left to go. It's number 29 of Manny Rosario, making their first ever start here on the channel, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they do here in qualifying. Time to beat still set by Zaedin Davidson with a 41.491. We just saw a blistering time out of that 76 of Larry Darwin Jr. 3rd on the board with a 41.559. So we'll have to see if Rosario can maybe continue that momentum set down by the 76. We'll just have to wait and see how it all ends up shaking out here with our final car out for qualifying. But Nathan, I definitely appreciate you. You've joined alongside me for pretty much this entire qualifying session. And what do you think about what we've seen so far? What are you expecting out of this number 29 machine? And how do you think all this is going to translate into the main race tomorrow afternoon?
Well, I think this is definitely going to be interesting because, we got some really strong drivers up towards the front right now with Davidson, Turner, Alonso, Johnson Jameson, Tyler Jericho, but among some of those, like Tyler Jericho, Johnson Jameson, Nicholas Cameron, Darwin Jr., a handful of them are kind of new. But I feel like this is a pretty well-balanced field. And then you got some of these guys like Larry Darwin Jr. and our last driver out, Manny Rosario, are pretty new here in this Freedom 100. And it's kind of a trend that's always been a thing here, where we kind of seen these new drivers do really well in these special one-off events, and we gotta see if that ends up happening here tomorrow.
Just have to wait and see how it all ends up shaking out tomorrow, but like I mentioned, it always seems to kind of be a stroke of good luck for these newcomers here in these special events, so have to see if the same applies here to the 29 of Manny Rosario, our last car out here for Freedom 100 qualifying. Still a time to beat is the 41.491 set by Zaedin Davidson. We'll see what kind of speed this 29 car has coming across the line. Going to be 2:15 for the number 29 across the line, 2:17 into turn number 1. So I don't think this will quite be pole time. So I think Zaedin Davidson is relatively safe there up at the top of the standings. 2:08 there off of turn number 2 for Manny Rosario, but still could be a good lap of that 29. We'll have to see if they can pick it up here a little bit in the second half. Will they reach 2:20 into turn 3? Not quite. We'll have to see where this 29 will end up slotting up for the race tomorrow afternoon through turn 4 for the final time here in qualifying. Going to minimize out at 2:07. And across the line, Manny Rosario on their first ever start here on the channel. Going to clock in at a 41.830. Not really the time that you want. Going to clock him in there in the 23rd spot. This is a couple thousandths there behind the number 8 of Bernardo de Oliveira. So going to have some work to do come tomorrow afternoon for the Freedom 100, but like I said, these newcomers definitely seem to tend to do well here in these special events, so that 29 car will still definitely be one to watch out for come tomorrow. But Zaedin Davidson has won the pole for the 2026 Freedom 100. Great stuff there from your driver, Nathan, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do in the race come tomorrow afternoon. But that will conclude qualifying for the 2026 Freedom 100. Let's take a look at your final qualifying results for the 2026 Freedom 100. Well, another Freedom 100 qualifying session in the books, and man, what an eventful session that was. Zaedin Davidson, your pole sitter for the 2026 Freedom 100 with a blistering time of 41.491. Was definitely quite the surprise there, but what a lap into that 15 machine. He'll be starting on the pole for tomorrow's big race, and it's definitely going to be a car to watch out for, especially after setting a lap like that. Still, anything can happen in the race tomorrow. I have to see how it all ends up shaking out. Still, anybody can win from anywhere. We've seen that in last year's Indy 250. So, it'll definitely be interesting to see who does go to victory lane tomorrow afternoon for the 2026 edition of the Freedom 100. But taking a quick look here through your qualifying results here for the 2026 Freedom 100, of course, Zaedin Davidson will nab the pole there, and the number 15, Jesse Turner, will be joining him on the front row in that number 10 machine. Still a great qualifying effort there for the channel veteran. Row number 2, you have the 76 of Larry Darwin Jr. Fantastic effort there for him, starting alongside the number 5 of Hierjel Alonso. Row 3, it'll be the 14 of Nicholas Cameron, starting alongside the 7 of Johnson Jameson. Row 4, the 54 of Bibi Ruiz, and the 18 of Tyler Jericho. Row 5, rounding out your top 10, we have the 79 of Justin Perez and the 19 of Corey Case. Row 6, you have the 22, Matthew Burnett, and the 17 of Rogal Dorn. Row 7, it'll be the 04 Carson Miller and the 27 of Kacey Kojima. Row 8, the 26 Daniel Paulus Jr. and the 34 of Henry Jack Brown. Row 9, it'll be the 11 of Kasumi Takashi and the 86 of Rayan Durrani. Row 10, the 46 Lenard Kocsmar and the 67 of Alexis Selspin. Row 11, the 07 Angel Gutierrez and the 8 of Bernardo de Oliveira. Row 12, the 29 of Manny Rosario and the 71 of Igor Barreto. Row 13, the 26, David Dixon, and the 20 of Andrew Williams. And rounding out the field in row number 14, we have the 47 of Emily York Watson, starting alongside the 2 of Pria McShane. But that should pretty much do it here for festivities today from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and here from Freedom 100 qualifying. Of course, coming up later on tonight, we have the second annual Little 250 presented by Cambridge. That'll be going up at 7 p.m. tonight, Eastern Time. Definitely make sure to keep your eyes peeled for that one. It was such a fun race. Nathan always does a fantastic job with the Little 250. It was fun last year. It was fun this year once again, and had a lot of great racing, a lot of surprises. something that I definitely think you all should check out. And then, of course, tomorrow, Friday, May 22nd, we got Indy 250 Carb Day practice at 11. And that all leads up to the 2026 edition of the Freedom 100 tomorrow at noon Eastern Time. You got the Coca-Cola 600 in the Wawa Cup Series that evening at 7. And then everything leads up to Saturday, May 23rd, noon Eastern Time, the 13th running of the Indianapolis 250. Going to be very, very interesting to see how that ends up shaking out. It definitely, though, be a lot of fun. It's Indy 250 week, the best time of the year here on the channel. We've definitely had our fair share of fun so far, and it's not over yet. It is far from over. A lot more fun in store. It'll be very exciting to see how it all ends up shaking out. But thank you all so very much for tuning in here to qualifying for the 2026 Freedom 100. Huge thanks to Nathan and Alex for hopping in the booth during qualifying, and I will see you all for the 2026 edition of the Freedom 100 tomorrow at noon Eastern Time. But until then, y'all take care and have yourselves a good one. Congratulations to Zaedin Davidson once again, your pole sitter for the 2026 Freedom 100.